then we can innovate around ways to make things more relevant to customers, right? So the idea of implementation, if we can have lots of great ideas, but if they aren't relevant to the customer, if they aren't implemented, they're not that valuable, right? And so those are kind of the three key areas that we talk about innovation. We can innovate in our capability, that's what we can do, and that's like creating new products or solving problems, using what we know and do it different ways. We can innovate in our capacity, that's how much of it we can do, or our efficiency in doing it. And we can innovate in terms of how we stay relevant to customers so that they find value in what we're doing. So those are the three kind of key areas. Innovation is kind of it's almost fractal, right? You can innovate at a very small level in terms of a new way to do something that you're already doing, so a process can be improved, or you can innovate at a big grand level, which is deliver something totally new and different. So one of the models that we found that's helpful is this value model. So if we have on the bottom axis is a spectrum. Oh, so I have a handout that I'll give you about midway through, so that this is in the handout. Some of the things we just talked about in the handout. So if we have the spectrum of known to new, so this is doing things we're already doing, iterating on a process, delivering products that we already have or services that we already have. Those things are known. New would be delivering, coming up with a new product or improving a process to do it in a more efficient way, improving our capacity. So we have that spectrum, and then we have this idea of internal versus customer facing. And roughly, we can make 4 quadrants here that says, if we're doing stuff that's known, processes we know how to do, and it's all internal, so software development, for example. We know over the past 20 years we've learned how to create software, and it's not customer facing, it's internal. And so that is pretty low value. Then we have doing new stuff that's internal, and that has higher value. We have doing customer-facing stuff that's known. The most valuable quadrant, though, is up here. Right? This is the high-value quadrant. Is doing things that are new and customer-facing. And so there's been quite a flurry of both activity and concern around the whole idea of outsourcing and offshoring, at least from the U.S. perspective. Right, where thousands of jobs, particularly in customer support, are going to India, Costa Rica, Malaysia. And so when you look at and also software development and engineering, accounts payable, a lot of the back office stuff being outsourced or offshored. The goal for the company is to reduce the cost of doing those things that are known and internal. So engineering jobs and things like that. So outsourcing this makes sense, because if you can do it for 10 cents versus $1, so in the US it costs $1, in India it costs 10 cents. That's the ratio, 10 to 1. If you can do it at 1/10 the cost and it's low value, you might as well do it, right? What people are not outsourcing is the innovative new stuff that is customer facing. And so Cisco, for example, has a very sophisticated model they use for about 60% of their customer service is done outside of the U.S. and a big center in Costa Rica, quite a few folks in India. And they do it as a product matures, then they move the support offshore. So when the product is new, and they're fixing problems about the product, it's new and it's customer facing, it's Cisco people that are in the labs with the developers who are supporting the product. As the product matures, goes through its life cycle, then they start to move it offshore because mostly they're solving known issues that they've already solved before, and it's not as And so we call this a value model where, the place anybody needs to be, regardless of what your industry is or your job, the place you want to be is in high value and customer facing. Because that has the most value. So in order to be there, we're constantly doing new things, right? So if we're doing stuff we already know how to do, that's at risk of, over time, becoming less valuable. If we're constantly doing new things and we're interacting with customers, from a business model, that's the high value quadrant. So to be here requires innovation, right? So, and again, that can happen at multiple levels, very small elements of like process improvement to very grand elements. So it's important for progress. It's important in terms of the value that we create in terms of the work we do. So how do we do it? Any thoughts on how we innovate?
Learning.
Learning
From
okay.
From the process.
From the process? Yeah. Okay. So what I want to do, so let's say we have a process and we want to learn from it and improve it. What kinds of things would we measure? What would we look at to know whether or not we're improving a process?
So from what's not working.
Okay, what's not working?
There's a plan and action, and result.
Okay.
So from the result may not be matching with the plan.
Okay.
So you look at what makes a difference.
Right. So we might call that quality measurement, right?
Quality
It says
measurement, yeah.
we have an expected outcome, and if we're meeting that outcome, then things are good. If we're not meeting that outcome, then we need to make some adjustments. So the quality of what we do is important from a process point of view. What else is important?
Time it takes to...
The time it takes. So, yeah. So that's kind of the efficiency factor or the capacity factor.
And the cost of it.
And the cost of it, okay, which relates to time quite often. Yeah. Anything else? So quality, time, and throughput, and how much of it can we do? So those are kind of the three measures around the process. So what we want to do, we're going to do an exercise now.
Question is quality of what?
Well, so Deming was the father of the whole quality movement, and his definition of it was that it meets the requirements. Right. So whatever it is, so if you're translating stuff, there's a certain way to scale to rate the quality of the translation, right? So it only needs to be at a certain score to be good enough. Right? So sometimes quality is misinterpreted as perfection, right? This is a quality product because it's perfect. But in fact, Deming would argue with that in fact quality isn't about perfection, it's about meeting the requirements. So understanding the requirements for whatever it is you produce, which relates back to that capability.
Oh, so it's about the focus on the product or the service.
Yes. That's the requirements for what's good enough for that product. What are the quality requirements? So, we're going to do an exercise. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I need somebody to, maybe you could be our timer.
Okay.
So we need a timer, and we're going to have to take notes.
You have a timer on your iPhone.
Oh, okay.
The clock.
Yeah, there's a nice,
Yeah.
is that an iPhone? Yeah, there's a nice stopwatch in there that we can just use that. What happened to the eraser? Okay. So we're going to invent a process, and then we're going to see if we can improve it. So, and we want to capture some of this as we do this. And I think there's room in here to do it. So, we want to look at, we'll have some quality criteria, we'll have some timing measurements, and